So I've been using the Canon EOS R for the last 2 months, and my comprehensive review is that it is a mirrorless Canon 60 Mark II. So I've been using the Canon R because a couple months ago, B&H Photo Video in New York City contacted me and asked if I wanted to borrow it, and of course I said yes, because it is a $3,400 camera, and why not? So I got the camera and I filmed a few videos here in New York City, and then I took it to London and filmed an entire week there. Then I took it to Oklahoma, filmed an entire week there, and then took it to Colorado and filmed with it an entire week there. And then I've had it for a month as we've been back in New York City. So I have been putting the Canon R through a lot of real-world testing as a main cinematic vlogging camera. And after using it that long, I basically have fallen in love with the camera. I think that it is a really good camera, especially for me coming from a 60 Mark II into the R. It is an upgrade in some ways, and then it's also similar in some ways, but then it comes in this mirrorless package. So for me, and with my needs as being a YouTuber, a cinematic vlogger, whatever you want to say, just all the things that I use my camera for, the R performed very well, and I think I had a better experience with it than I normally do on the Canon 60 Mark II. But not a huge jump. Like if I was spending my own money on it and I had the 60 Mark II, I probably wouldn't spend the $3,400 to get the Canon R. But having the Canon R and using it now, I am going to be very sad to give it back and go back to my 60 Mark II. Some of the things that the Canon R has over the 60 Mark II, one, it is a mirrorless camera, so that gives you the perks of being mirrorless with the lenses and adapters, all of that type of stuff. Whenever I go back to the 6D, it feels very chunky and bulky now after using the R, but there isn't much of a weight difference. I haven't weighed them to actually see, but in real world, like holding the cameras, you don't have a noticeably lighter camera whenever you go to the R. The R also has a headphone out, which the 6D does not, and it also has a few other recording codecs, mainly the all-I recording codec, which is a much larger file size, but you do get a lot more data in the image for color grading. It also has 4K, which the 60 Mark II does not, but huge catch is that the 4K on the Canon R is essentially useless because it comes with a 1.8 crop factor. Meaning, if you have a 24mm lens in 1080p, and then you switch that over to 4K, you have to take that 24mm and times it by 1.8, which is, hey Siri, what is 24 times 1.8?
43.2.
You have a 43.2mm lens instead of the 24 that you actually want. So using 4K all the time, basically, you just can't. Because I would have to get incredibly wide lenses in order to get the shots in 4K that I actually want. And as of right now, there are no native lenses for the Canon R that are that wide. But I will say that I did find other uses for the 4K in the opposite direction, where the 4K actually brings a lot of additional versatility to your lens. So with the kit lens, it goes up to 105. That gives you a 185mm lens. And I actually did use this a lot, especially in London, whenever we were walking around and I was trying to get different variety of shots. I could get the wide shot of Tower Bridge, but then I could punch it into 4K, zoom all the way into 185 now, and get close-ups of the top. And whenever you're in 4K, it does give you some additional image stabilization, but it gets very jello-y if you were to like do a lot of movement. But for trying to get some locked off shots, it actually does a very good job at helping you keep a steady hand. So a couple negative things that I have found about the R is, one, they moved the mic in placement down on the body, and so now whenever you flip the screen around, it actually will hit the microphone cable and you can't completely turn it around while the screen is fully out, I guess. And so you have to close the screen a little bit and then flip it around and then open it back up. Also, there is no in-body stabilization. This is not new to me because that's the same with my 6D, but I think the kit 24-105 lens on the R is a little bit jumpier than what I'm used to on my 24-70 f4 L series lens that I normally use. I shot a full day with the image stabilization off, and I shot many days with it on. I don't know if I really have figured out which I like better, but generally speaking, I just leave it on just to cut out that micro shake, and I don't have to do as much warp stabilizer and stuff in post. Also, now that the viewfinder is an electronic viewfinder, there is a proximity sensor that whenever you approach the camera, it will turn off the LCD screen and turn on the electronic viewfinder. But it is way too sensitive. You can still be, I think, over an inch away, and it turns off the LCD screen, which was very annoying whenever I was trying to change settings on the touchscreen while the LCD screen was open, because I would reach my hand across the body to try to press a button and it would turn the screen off before I got there. You can manually do it where you can make it locked onto the LCD or locked onto the electronic viewfinder, which I have done now where I have it locked onto the LCD. But whenever I'm out and about and I'm switching back and forth between photo and video and just capturing things, it is way too cumbersome to try to go into kind of deep into settings and manually change which viewfinder I want to use. Essentially, if I have it on the LCD and I'm out, I'm never going to manually change it back to the viewfinder. The R has the brand new touch bar feature on the back, which I did not use one time. And then one thing that I actually forgot about is the first day I was shooting with it here in New York City, the camera actually froze on me twice. While I was changing settings or I was pressing record, something happened where it just like froze the entire camera. Everything locked up. You couldn't use the touchscreen, you couldn't press any buttons. It didn't do anything until I took the battery out of the camera, basically did a hard reset on it. And then it did it one other time that same day, but then I never got it to freeze again. So I say that, but I don't know what to do with the information. One thing that I was pleasantly surprised with was battery life. It uses the same batteries as most all other Canon DSLRs, which was also a huge welcome because I already had a couple batteries for my 6D. So with the one that it came with, I was able to have 3 batteries. But even with all of the shooting I was doing, I never once had to use a third battery. Switching back and forth between photo and recording video is actually very fast if you are in photo mode. If you're already in photo mode, you can just press the record button and it will automatically start recording with the settings that you have set for your custom 3 setting. But the thing that sucks about it is that if you're using the R primarily for video, which I am, I want to be in the video settings because I want to be changing back and forth between my other custom settings. But it takes 3 buttons to go from video to photo. But if you're in photo, all you have to do is press the record button. So I would really like them to implement a easy switch to photo while you're in the video settings. The autofocus on the R, I feel like is very smooth. I feel like there was a noticeable difference from the 6D to the R in whenever you do the tap to focus. I feel like the 6D has kind of a much faster transition, and it looks like the camera did it versus somebody manually focusing. At least that's what I felt. I didn't do any actual, scientific tests to make my case on that, but I do think that the autofocus is better. But speaking of focus, manually focusing is a huge upgrade on the R. You now have focus peaking, which is, awesome. But you also now have this focus guide, which is it's basically the same as the focus box that you see on other cameras, where there's a box, over my face right now on the 6D Mark II, and whenever you tap things, there's a box for a focus. Whenever you are in manually focusing mode on the R, you have that same box, but as you turn the ring, there are some arrows that get closer together or farther apart telling you what you need to do to actually bring the object inside that box into focus. Whenever you bring it into focus, it turns green and you are confident that that thing is in focus. Versus with focus peaking, there can be a whole lot of things that are highlighted in red, and you can be, you know, semi-confident, but you still have to maybe punch in and make sure that that thing is specifically in focus. But with the focus guide, I felt way more confident with my manual focusing, and I think that is a huge feature. Did I say huge already? Of the Canon R. So that's the Canon EOS R. After 2 months, would I buy it? Probably, if I had the money. It's an expensive camera, so maybe not. But I do like the camera. But I also don't really have a need to upgrade to it from the Canon 60 Mark II. If I didn't have the 60 Mark II and I was looking between them, I guess I probably would maybe look more towards the R, because I feel like maybe it is a little more future-proof-ish, being mirrorless, and it is kind of the future. I don't know. But for my needs, for the type of filmmaker I am, both the Canon 60 Mark II and the Canon R check the most boxes in the Canon lineup for the type of the camera that I want, the camera that I need for all the things that I want to get done. So the Canon 60 Mark II and the Canon R would be my cameras of choice, because they check the most boxes for my needs. And that's really all anybody can ever ask for. Who cares what everybody else says about the specs of a camera, or whether or not that camera is crap? Whenever you take the camera out and you're able to make the images that you want to make with that equipment, then that's the equipment that is best for you. The end. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. If you want to check out the Canon EOS R, there is a link in the description that is an affiliate link to B&H Photo Video. I do get a kickback from that if you were to purchase, which I very much appreciate.